Hello, welcome to FHE on the Road with Christine Stevenson. This podcast is designed to connect the people and the places from the past with your lives today, with 5-minute stories and facts from church history. Save these stories for when you are traveling through these areas to bring history to life. Okay, welcome back to FHE on the Road with Christine. Today we're going to talk about the Revelations in Kirtland, Ohio. I think this is so cool. I love learning about Kirtland, Ohio. I didn't. Just even a couple years ago, I feel like when planning church history trips and thinking of going where I'd want to go, Kirtland was not high on the list because, we didn't own the temple, which I felt like was the biggest part of Kirtland, right? I'm like, what is there to do there? And for sure, everyone talks about how amazing Nauvoo is and Palmyra and the Sacred Grove. And I just never got that same feeling of people talking about Kirtland like it's amazing. But there was a man in our ward who was a BYU professor. His name is Arnie Gar. And him and his wife, who I love, they're both so amazing. But they went and taught or served a mission in Kirtland, Ohio. So they came back and he basically said that. He's like, don't skip Kirtland. Do not skip Kirtland. And he gave the most amazing talk on the revelations that happened in Kirtland, Ohio. So I talked to them a little bit after and got some information from them. They're the ones who pointed me towards these Kirtland, Ohio books. So yeah, I've been learning about Kirtland and it's pretty amazing. I'm really, really excited. Hopefully we can make it to Kirtland. But I'm just excited to learn about the importance of this area to the history of the church. Anyways, Kirtland is pretty powerful. So the prophet Joseph Smith grew and developed in his abilities as a prophet of God. He was unschooled and it affected his confidence. So we know that he was unschooled. We talk about that a lot, and some people want to argue that point, but he grew into the prophet of God. It was precept upon precept. So, he had his first vision at 14 years of age. To be put up against gospel scholars, it had to have been intimidating for him. And so Kirtland, he's getting a little bit older. In Doctrine and Covenants 43:15-16, the Lord said to Joseph, "Ye are not sent forth to be taught, but to teach the children of men. Ye are to be taught from on high." And I love that. I feel like Heavenly Father's like, okay, no more deferring to other people. Like, you are the prophet. And this revelation seemed to have changed Joseph, giving him the confidence that the Lord would make him capable, make him prepared to answer questions. And from that point on, there were spiritual experiences, manifestations, and revelations regularly. That makes up the majority of the Doctrine and Covenants. I love that the Lord teaches precept upon precept. And I love the story of Joseph Smith because it's so obvious that he couldn't have known everything at 14. And then even translating the Book of Mormon, it's like he doesn't know everything and he's still learning and growing, but he's tutored by God and angels. So I love that God has given us these blessings, that he's given us a prophet of God, that they are tutored by heavenly beings. I think that's amazing. Anyways, so it says, Joseph grew in his abilities like everyone else. He had many trials and experiences in life that helped shape him into the person Heavenly Father needed him to be as the prophet of the restoration. This is kind of fun, the comparison of Joseph Smith that Lorenzo Snow made. So I'm going to read 2 different recordings that Lorenzo Snow made. So this is the first one. He said, "I made a critical examination as to his appearance, his dress, his manner as I heard him speak. He was only 25 years of age and was not at that time what would be called a fluent speaker. His remarks were confined principally to his own experiences, especially the visitation of angels, giving a strong and powerful testimony in regards to these marvelous manifestations. He simply bore his testimony to what the Lord had manifested to him, to the dispensation of the gospel which had been committed to him, and to the authority that he possessed. At first, he seemed a little diffident and spoke in a rather low voice, but as he proceeded, he became very strong and powerful, and seemed to affect the whole audience with the feeling that he was honest and sincere. It certainly influenced me in a way that made impressions upon me to remain until this present day." So this is Lorenzo Snow's basically his first impressions of Joseph Smith when he saw him speak. And can you imagine being Joseph Smith when Lorenzo Snow, who seems like the kindest person ever, he's like, I made a critical examination of his appearance, how he dressed, his manners, and how he spoke. It's like everyone is trying to figure out if Joseph Smith is telling the truth, right? And how he says he wasn't super confident until he started talking about his personal experiences, and that's when he grew in confidence. So then, this is Lorenzo Snow 5 years later talking about Joseph Smith. He said, he seemed to have changed considerably in his appearance since I first saw him in Hiram 4.5 years before. He was very ready in conversation and had apparently lost all reserve and diffident feeling that he seemed to have before. He was free and easy in his conversation with me, making me feel perfectly at home in his presence. In fact, I felt as free with him as if we had been special friends for years. He was very familiar. And I love that. The contrast between those two, like that couple years, 4.5 years later, then it was like Joseph had grown in confidence in himself and he was able to communicate more easily with the people around him. He doesn't seem as self-conscious as Lorenzo Snow said. And it kind of reminds me, a lot of the parts of Joseph Smith's story remind me of missionaries, how it's like, yeah, they're great. And they have great testimonies before they go, and listening to them, it feels so like sweet and trusting. It's like, okay, I'm going to go trust in the Lord. And then when the missionaries come home, it just is so powerful hearing their stories and their confidence, and it's not confidence in themselves. It's confidence in the Lord. Like they know they can trust him. They know that things will work out. Anyways, so much of Joseph Smith's story reminds me of that. In this book, Joseph Smith's Eyewitness Accounts by Carl Ricks, he gives a list of the revelations received by the prophet Joseph Smith that had been foundational to the church today. And so these are them. It's kind of long, so get ready. But these are all the revelations, or this is a list of revelations that were received in Kirtland. So we learned about Christ's mission, the resurrection, welfare principles, revelation. We learned about revelation, Satan's role and his mission, the consecration of properties, stewardship, millennium, seeking signs, moral conduct, forgiveness, church courts, tithing, debt, priesthood authority, a voice of warning, God's dealings with mankind, eternal progression, judgment, destiny of the church, role of the prophet, role of parents, baptism, definition of the priesthood office, priesthood keys, mission work, life after death, second coming, word of wisdom, Godhead, pre-existence, creation of worlds, constitution, law of the land, patriarchal blessing, and Sabbath day was the list that Carl Ricks made in his book, Joseph Smith's Kirtland Eyewitness Accounts. So needless to say, the revelations received by Joseph Smith and Kirtland were foundational to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints today. The Kirtland era was so powerful and full of blessings. And what a great blessing it is that we have the information today to help us lead better lives. And we've been able to have it for over 200 years. I love Kirtland. It sounds amazing. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Joseph Smith and the revelations received in Ohio. Thanks. Thank you for listening to FHE on the road today. We hope you enjoyed what you've heard. Please like, subscribe, and share with anyone who'd be interested in these stories. Thanks.